a lousy fourth quarter, just I guess with personnel and everything happening wise WWE has had since I guess SummerSlam on. Because you take a look at it, you've had the unfortunate news with Roman Reigns. You've had now the situation with Becky Lynch, where it could have been the hottest main event on a pay-per-view in a long time that they've had, and this all blew up. And then, on top of it, the Saudi Arabia thing. Morehouse, your thoughts on this entire, I don't want to say dumpster fire, because somehow they are keeping on, and they manage to kind of rise themselves from the ashes, but every time they do, it always seems that something happens.
Is it one step forward, two steps behind right now?
More like they take one step forward and then they get knocked back 10.
That seems insane. To be the... I mean, it's hard to find positives when it feels like the overall business right now is kind of lull. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of traction going on.
Well, it's the dead period of the year, too.
Yeah, it's the deadest period we've seen. It's probably the deadest period we've seen in a long time, because it's not even just being felt by WWE, but it's being felt by multiple corporate companies right now. You got Becky Lynch, who had a hot angle this week, or on Raw recently, and it was all caused under by a punch to the face. I don't know if it's accidental or not, but I feel like could be a building opportunity with Nia Jax. You could build her into a ass kicker, like someone who just doesn't give a F.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's I think the direction they're going to go.
Then you have Roman, who unfortunately his leukemia came back, so he's going to be taking personal time to get that sorted out.
And who knows how long that's going to take? That's the thing where you don't want to mess around with, obviously, and that stuff. So hey, he takes as much time as he needs to get that straightened out.
But the alternative is throw the belt back on the guy who barely wrestles.
I don't get that. I really don't. It's just, and then you were teasing for the past 2 or 3 weeks a Brock Lesnar AJ Styles match at Survivor Series, which we saw last year, and to be quite honest with you, was not one of the high points of AJ's year wrestling Brock. The two styles didn't mesh. But now, it will have already happened as you take a look at this. We're looking at Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan, and the potential of those two styles not meshing is kind of, a thing, too. It's a very real situation, right? So,
and they're also both heels at the moment.
Yes.
So you have a heel versus heel match between a part-timer and a guy with neck problems.
Yeah, it's good. You have this amazing comeback story coming right back into WWE and that stuff and all the momentum off of it. And what do you do? Well, let's feed him to a monster who likes to dump people on his heads.
For the guy who has head problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have Saudi Arabia happened not too long ago as well. Right after Evolution, which was a good time. Then you went the next week to a bad time with Saudi Arabia. They have this big King of the Ring style best in the world tournament. Shane McMahon wins it out of nowhere, and there's no follow-up on that in the last 2 weeks.
Yep. The first mention I saw that was in the build of Survivor Series over the past week on SmackDown, or not on SmackDown, on Raw, where Stephanie and Corbin talked about it passingly in a backstage vignette about halfway through the show. Like, it was a general figure. It's like, we've got to beat him because he thinks he's the best in the world right now,
So, other than the Raw title changing at Saudi Arabia, it's almost like that event never happened, and they're just washing their hands of it.
Yep, exactly. Just go right into the thing until they release the DVDs and the Blu-rays and that stuff, and then they want to try and make a profit off of what they've got because, they have the network, but not enough people are on the network, and you name it. So, yeah.
So just right now, there's no momentum going into the Rumble. I mean, I have ideas what I would book, but again, I don't work for WWE. I cannot say what's in their heads.
It's been worse, though. I mean, like, I've seen this. This is probably, and I mentioned this on one of my Nitro takes prior to recording this probably about maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember what exact one it was, but it's the most interesting fourth quarter WWE has had in a long time, just because of all the negative forces working against them. That's about it. And so you kind of it's interesting because I don't want to say it's a car crash, but it's like watching a race and the car catches on fire, and it's like, okay, what's the driver going to do, right? So it's just one of those things. It's amazing just to see their reaction and what they do with different circumstances and that stuff. Like the Becky Lynch thing was one that came right out of nowhere, and you watch it Monday night on Raw, and it's like, awesome. This is her Austin moment. Could be a definitive. This is a CM Punk pipe bomb moment. This is going to launch her and propel her for the next few years. What she's doing here and that stuff, and then immediately you watch it again, and then you realize, oh, geez, Nia clocked her pretty good with that.
Knocked her out.
Knocked her right out, and then it's like, whoa, I hope she doesn't have concussion problems. The next night, she's got concussion problems and can't make the fight. So it's like, oh, man. It's just one of the worst things. And like I said, one of the most anticipated main events in 2018 for WWE, maybe in a long time, is off the table because, injury. But the good news is, the rumor is, and we'll wait and see about this in 2019, and of course, we'll be talking about it here on the Wrestling Channel. But is Ronda Becky is on for WrestleMania 35 now. They've effectively just flip-flopped what they were going to do. They were going to do Ronda Becky at Survivor Series, building up to Ronda Charlotte at Mania. The consensus amongst all the experts and dirt sheet writers and whoever, and the guy on the street sitting in front of the Quickie Mart is, they flip-flopped. And so they're doing Ronda Charlotte this weekend, obviously, and then Ronda Becky later on down the line at WrestleMania. Or they did Ronda Charlotte at Survivor Series, depending on when you watch this. So there we go.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll work out. I think she's still using social media to get her heat still going. So
absolutely.
We'll see what happens. And then I don't know. Is WWE putting all their eggs in a basket right now? Or are they trying to get the Elite maybe in January?